In our last session, we looked at what does it require to be a follower of Jesus? And we discovered that it requires discipline. And we looked at some of the principles of what we have to do and what God does. And in this final segment, I would like to share with you a spiritual discipline tool that we have used for a number of years around the world to help people to discipline themselves in order to be servants. And we call it the discipline of love. Some people call it love actions. It doesn't matter what you call it. And this is not the only way, but it's one way that we've found is effective. Actually, it's impacted a huge church in Africa, and the whole congregation of thousands of people practices this on a regular basis. And the impact in their community has been phenomenal. And it's basically learning to be a servant. Not only where we work, but in our communities, the places where we live. It's a very simple tool. And I'm going to present something to you that looks a little bit complex, but it's really not once you get into it and you begin to practice it. But it gives you a way to think about how can we serve others. And one of the things that we need to think about is what is the objective of serving? Why do we serve? Well, first of all, we serve because we're being obedient to what Christ has called us to do. But secondly, we serve in order to help the people that we're serving grow towards God's intentions for them. That's why we serve. We don't serve just to serve. We serve to help them fulfill God's intentions in their lives. So, and we look at the first slide, we see across the top, we see 4 areas: wisdom, physical, spiritual, and social. And the reason we've chosen these 4 areas is because in Luke 2:52, we see that Jesus grew. Dr. Luke records that we see Jesus grow in these 4 categories. And if you've studied human development, it's easy to see and to understand how every area of human development can fit into these 4 categories. It's much simpler than the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you have dozens of different categories. But this summarizes them into something that is very simple and useful for people at the village level all the way to the university level. These are 4 categories. These are 4 categories of human need. We all need to have God's wisdom. We all need to grow completely physically. We all need to become competent in our social relationships. We all need to have a fulfilling, full spiritual relationship with the Lord. So these are 4 areas of human need. And we can serve other people to help them grow in wisdom, to help them become more physically developed and fulfilled, to help them become spiritually fulfilled and socially fulfilled. So why do we serve people? To help them to grow in wisdom, to help them to grow physically, spiritually, and socially. So those are the 4 areas or categories of need. And then on the left-hand side of this matrix, we have 3 areas of people that we can serve. And there you could develop this into any area or any number of categories, but we thought that the 3 areas are basic communities or worlds in which we live. We live in the world of our family, the world of our church, and the world of our community. And then you can break community down into numerous categories: near community, distant community, culturally similar community, culturally different, etc. But we'll just, for the sake of illustration today, we'll just look at those 3 levels: family, church, and community. And what I want to do is to help us to look at this matrix, as 12 ways, 12 areas where we can serve other people. Now, let's look first of all at family. When we look at family, here are just some very simple examples of how we can serve to help our families grow in wisdom. For example, in the first upper left-hand corner, we see that one way, this is only one example, that we could help our family grow in wisdom is to discuss how to apply a proverb during our daily family devotions, assuming we have daily family devotions. This would just be one way that we could help our children or our spouse or help us together to understand what does it mean to grow in God's understanding of how we are to live. We could read a proverb and discuss what does that mean? What are some of the practical implications of that kind of growth? Another one, let's look at the far right-hand side, just as an example. Well, and this is true for pastors especially, or guys that are really busy, they don't have time, to do anything, with their spouses. Take your wife out for a date. I can remember one group of pastors I met with one time, and I said, how many pastors, the group of pastors, when was the last time you took your wife out for a date without the kids? And one guy lifted his hand. I said, tell us. And he said, before we were married. Well, that was nice, but it certainly wasn't enough. And how can we help our spouses? How can we help ourselves as a couple to grow as God intends us to grow, to reach God's intentions for us? Spend more time with each other on a date or bowling or on a walk, whatever we do. Let's look at the next category, church. What would be some ways we could serve in our church to help our church grow towards God's intentions for it? On the left-hand side, we see an example, help youth ministry to learn better ways to serve. You got kids in your, help the kids learn how to serve. And as they learn how to serve, they're growing in wisdom. This is how God wants us to live. And that's one example. Again, on the right-hand side, how can we help our church grow socially? Well, in most churches, there are single parents with kids. They need to be socialized. And one of the things that we could do is to invite those kids from a single parent family into our home to share a meal, to go camping, to go on a bowling or a game, a sports game, to watch it together, to do something socially with those kids. So that's just an example of one way we could socially serve our church and to help our church grow towards God's intentions. Let's look at the third category, community. Look at the under physical. Here's an example. We could pick up trash in our own community or in the neighborhood where we work. I've been doing this for years. It's just part of who I am. I walk down the street, I see trash, I pick it up, and I put it in the nearest receptacle I come to. My grandsons, they know that. When they go for a walk with Grandpa, we pick up trash. And you don't even have to tell them about it because it's just what they do. We have an office and a parking lot that's 2 blocks from each other. And so I park in the parking lot, and it's in the downtown area where there are a lot of homeless people who just seem to enjoy throwing trash out of their shopping carts, as they eat. And unless it's picked up, it really becomes an eyesore. Well, why would I do that in my community? Well, one thing is I think it reflects God's image. God loves a clean community. And sometimes when I do this, I just sing, "This is my Father's world." And it is our Father's world. And so we as we walk, we pick up the trash. Well, actually, every day when I leave the house, I pick up one of these grocery sacks. And I scrunch it up, put it in my back pocket, and when I get out of my truck and I walk the 2 blocks to my office, I take out the bag, and often I can't pick up all the trash that's on the way, but I can at least fill the bag. And when I get to the office, fortunately there's a city receptacle right across the street from us, and I just go over there and I put it in. Why do I do that? People look at me funny sometimes. Actually, one time this week, there was a lady walking to the university, which is downtown, and she as she walked past me, as I was picking up trash, she turned to me and she said, "Thank you." Well, she doesn't know whether I'm a Christian or not, but the homeless guy that sits across from our office with his shopping cart, he does know. And his name is King. That's his nickname. I don't know what his real name is, but we talk, and he knows what I do, and he sees that there's a follower of Jesus who cares about his community. Actually, that's what one homeless guy said to me as he walked by me one day. This was a couple of years ago. He said, "Now there's a man that cares about his community." We all ought to be known for the fact that we care about our community. So that's what the discipline of love is. It's thinking of different ways that we can help other people grow towards God's intentions for them. In our family, in our church, in our community. And that needs to be a lifestyle, not just something that we do because it's an assignment for a project, but because I want you to get accustomed to what this, and to get a taste of what this might mean. I'm going to give an assignment to all of us. And that assignment is to look at that matrix of 12 areas. And I want you to choose one of those. What is one of those where in the next 24 hours you can serve somebody? In your family, in one of the 4 areas, in your church, in one of the 4 areas, or in your community, in one of the 4 areas. I want you to think about that. And then I want you, after we close, I want you to not only write down what you think you can do in the next 24 hours, this is your assignment, then I want you to share it with one other person, and then I want you to pray for each other, that God will help you to actually do what you have committed to do. But after you do it, this is what I want you to do. On the slide, you're going to see a copy of a sample journal. And in the journal, it gives you an opportunity to identify which of those areas of the matrix. In this particular example, the area is family wisdom. And this is just an example. It gives the date, July 5th. It says, okay, the category and level is I'm going to do this in my family. I'm doing it in the area of wisdom. Well, and this is what was done. The need was that we need to have family devotions on a regular basis. And I haven't been doing that as a father. So what am I going to do? I'm going to read a psalm, for example, Psalm 119, verse 100, and I'm going to discuss it at a meal with my kids. As I do that, I'm helping my family grow in the area of wisdom. And then I ask the question, what did God teach me as I was reflecting His image of a servant as I'm serving my family? And then what I want you to do is I want you to write the journal, and I want you to send it by email to the other members of your cohort that you're studying with here. God bless you as you learn the discipline of love.